'cause I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh, I can't take my eyes off it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't stop.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first Baltic Clean Water Hackathon. So I'm super excited to start the last part of our hackathon, and I hope you all the teams are still fired up and ready to go. And we also have people watching us from Facebook. So hi everyone, doing it, and thank you for joining from Facebook as well. So I'm Arvydas, innovation partner in Catalysta Ventures, and I will be hosting this hackathon today. And I would like to start this event by welcoming Šarūnas from Baltic, co-organizer of this event. So Šarūnas, the floor is yours. Please unmute and say a few words for us.
Thank you, Arvydas. Good morning, everyone. To start your day, I would like maybe to share a story how the idea of this Clean Water Hackathon started, and maybe it will translate to your future efforts. So one day in one of the cities in the Baltic countries, actually the central part of it, we went to one park, and there was a small and tiny river crossing it. The smell coming out and the color of water was not really like a natural water resource, but rather a sewage. And we tried to talk with the park authorities and to try to find the reason, because for us it seemed like one end of the river was where it starts and the other where it goes. So guess where it goes later? It goes to the fourth largest city in Baltic Sea basin, basically the fourth largest city draining into Baltic Sea. And where it starts, actually nobody knows, because it goes sometimes even in sewage pipes, sometimes comes up and goes on the land. But the authorities said that when they actually measured and tested the water quality, they more or less found full Mendeleev or periodic table in it. And then you naturally have questions, how can you solve it? What can you do about it? Or what is the source of actually pollution in that water basin? And actually no one knows the answer, because no one ever tried to find it, and it's a bit disappointing, because source of pollution was not known. Released chemicals and hazardous materials that were found there, the source of it was not known. So you don't really know how to start with the solution, how to solve it, which partially meant that we are settling with it and tolerate it. But I truly believe that we are better than this, and it is clear that with all the great teams that we have assembled in this hackathon, we have the human intelligence capacity to solve it, to solve those problems, and to protect our water-related ecosystems. And I believe that by having this, we are halfway there. I think financial capacity is sort of secondary to your intellectual capacity to do the job. And I think that the task of today is to translate your human intelligence capacity into economically feasible solutions that would actually make this financing of your ideas only an administrative issue. So I hope that you achieve this by the end of today, and I wish you to enjoy this day and have a lot of perseverance in developing and implementing your integrated water resource management ideas going forward. So good luck.
Thank you, Šarūnas, for such inspiring words. Yeah, the story also inspired us to join as organizers as well for this hackathon. So I can just complement the story, and just one more time, let us go through the goals of this hackathon for the ones maybe who are joining the first time. So one of the first goals was this awareness concept, and we discussed a lot with Baltic about it. So how to, I mean, we saw that, no, this problem, maybe it's not so much evolved so far, and people are not going and searching for solutions. So, I mean, we wanted to make bigger awareness, and we approached more than 40 organizations for this hackathon, and unfortunately, many of them joined as organizations from Baltics and beyond. So this goal is already achieved, I would say. Another thing which is also very important is change the working approach. More than 40 meetings with different mentors already happened for the teams, and 40 of them more is to come today. So actually, I mean, lots of people met other people, and this is one of the interesting things when two groups of people are meeting. We have different ideas, and we're joining ideas, and we're evolving the solutions. So this is a great result as well. And the next thing, maybe regarding the working approach, with hackathon, it's very short time of period. So the idea was to create the solution as soon as possible, not to wait few years, not to kind of go too deep to kind of nailing everything, but kind of start as soon as possible to be able to see the results, and definitely find the solutions. So these are the slide. And one more thing, actually, when we wanted to start with two good notes, actually, this hackathon. So one of them, this hackathon is planning positive. And another one that we want to give gifts for all the teams, all the mentors, all the speakers, co-organizers, and supporters, as we call them, friends. So what we're doing, we're excited, super excited, actually, to be honest, that in cooperation with Startup Tingly, we managed to arrange gifts for the planet in behalf of all of you. And these gifts in total helps us to remove 75 kilograms of plastics and 15 tons of CO2 offset, and also supporting installation of river trash traps in Bali. And you will all receive a certificate, and actually I think you already received it, all of you, in your emails with a part of this positive impact. So check it, and thank you again one more time for joining it. And I'm super happy that this hackathon is, positive from impact in terms of you. And one more thing, actually, to cover here. I will not go through all of these logos and will not name all of organizations, but we are super happy that so many organizations joined it, and thank you to all of them. And I guess that we supported all the teams a lot, and yeah, we will support more even today. And so going forward, what we'll have next? Yeah, we'll have 3 super interesting speakers, super good keynotes, I would say. We'll start with Daiva Vaičiulytė, then Jurgis Didziulis will jump in, and then we will have Pär Larshans. And afterwards, we will have kind of check of the teams, and then teams will go to these mentoring sessions. And afterwards, we will ask you to join at 16:45 as well to listen to the final pitches and final awards. So, we are super excited for that one. And yeah, so let's move to the speakers. And I'm super excited to present first of them. It's Daiva. She's actress and social activist working with Extinction Rebellion. And Daiva, the floor is yours, and we're looking for some inspiration here from you.
Thank you, Arvidas. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to quickly share my screen. Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Daiva. I'm an actor and theatre maker and a full-time actress with Extinction Rebellion. It's a group in London, a protest group, probably some of you might be aware. And today I'm going to very briefly touch on the power of creativity and imagination in the time of this climate breakdown that we're all experiencing. Okay, so but before I begin, I know it's very early morning, but I think it's very healthy to be reflecting on the truth. And the truth is scary and it's real, and that we are facing an unprecedented global emergency and life on Earth is in crisis. So I don't know about you. I certainly can't still kind of wrap my head around this issue. It's so big, it's so complex. But I think first step is for whatever project we're in, whatever ideas we're playing, is to coming back to the truth, reminding ourselves, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? So yes, it's scary, it's very complex, but at the same time, it's exciting. And we can look at it as an opportunity to be creative and use our imagination. And I love this quote by Adrienne Mary Brown. She says, "How do we cultivate the muscle of radical imagination needed to dream together beyond fear?" And I love that she uses radical imagination, right? So like the normal imagination is not enough anymore. Like what is the next step? How can we, you guys created the ideas, you're taking them further. But now, as Arda said, like how we are in 3 Baltic states now. What is the chance beyond this for us to collaborate and take our ideas further? So this time is, she also says that we are in an imagination battle. A visionary exploration of humanity includes imagination. So probably many of you remember the days when you were a child and you were running in the fields, and it's summer now, so it's the best time to start daydreaming. So it's just an invitation for whatever stage you are with your project, to let your imagination run wild and just be bold and be courageous. But before you do, try and connect to why am I doing the work that you're doing? And you're probably doing this already. It's just a reminder. Why am I doing? What's the intention here? What is the intention that I'm putting into the world? And once you answer those questions for yourself, start playing and say yes to everything. Don't judge the ideas. You can use a free-flowing writing. You know that exercise when you just, it's kind of a stream of consciousness when you're writing, oh, I don't know what to write, I feel stuck, I feel blocked. But I bet you not, if you keep writing, something will come up. Meditate and visualize. It's one of the best tools, try how to get out of your head and come into your heart and see what comes in, what images, or maybe maybe some images, or maybe even some sounds that come in that are around or about your project. And experiment and talk, discuss, brainstorm what we already doing in this hackathon today, which is wonderful. Be vulnerable. Vulnerability, I think we need as more as ever. We don't have time for any pretense. We need to be vulnerable, be honest, come together, and don't get attached to your ideas as well, and don't fall under the illusion of ownership. Oh, this is mine and this is theirs, and like this is the time of crisis. We need to be thinking of a collective. So that's the third point of collaboration, where it comes in. And the first speaker, I believe it was Sharunas, he already started by telling the story, and we've been telling stories as humans since before the break of dawn. And probably there wasn't even a written language, and we communicated by sounds, by music. And I love this quote by Richard Powers. He says, "The best argument in the world won't change a person's mind. The only thing that can do that is a good story." So yeah, it's an invitation to think of, like, if I had to tell a story, what story would it be? It might be your product story, or might be your personal, even better. And use the artistic tools, use imagery. Sometimes one image can speak so much louder than 1,000 words. And I'm not talking just about the marketing communication aspect here. It's what I mentioned before. It's like it's about the idea and work in general. And because we are in time of crisis, and the subject can get really heavy, And I've experienced that with our theatre world, when we can get so wrapped up in how dramatic things are. But actually, from my experience personal, one of the best ways to communicate your message is humor and entertainment. You know, look how much time you spend probably on Netflix or watching documentaries or reading books in Corona. So use humor, lighten it up. So, you know, storytelling, the story structure is very simple. You just simply need to tell where you were, what happened, and why you're telling the story. And the more personal it is, the better. Also, if you can use human interactions, we're stuck behind the screens now. Like, all I can see now is my slides. I can't even properly see you, and it's quite disconnecting. So every chance we have to work face to face, to connect, to hear the other person, and definitely use those, because they're the powerful ones. Yeah, and be authentic. You know, if you don't know something, tell that you don't know. Another aspect that I very briefly want to touch on is building authentic relationships. So, you know, you've got your idea, you might be taking it to either investors or talking to other businesses. And again, I've probably mentioned this already. We can get so wrapped up in the facts, and we need facts, definitely we do. And science, but at the bottom of, like, behind every project, behind every idea, there's a human. So talk to human if you can. And sometimes we just need really relatively simple interactions. So go to communities that are directly impacted by water pollution, talk to them. And before you start educating them on the solutions that you probably come up with, hear them first. And practice active listening, hear their story. Like, how do they connect to that lake? How does that impact them in their everyday lives? Do they even care? Maybe they don't. Well, talk about that then. And another quote that I love, it says, we have to figure out what humanity looks like on all sides in order to truly collaborate. And where can you do this? Well, you know, besides the social media, like the standard way of marketing and communicating, and I would encourage, again, human interactions. Go to local events, take it to council meetings. You know, why not? We are in 3 Baltic states now. Like, this collaboration is happening between 3 Baltic states. So, you know, if some of you are sharing maybe similar ideas, take it to policymakers. Why not? You know, why not? Like, we need to treat the problem, not the symptoms sometimes. So, and I know it can be very overwhelming. Like, I'm doing all of this work already. But yeah, it's just an invitation. Go to celebration, fairs, use entertainment, use all those artistic tools. And another method that we personally use with Extinction Rebellion, we use people's assemblies. So when we have 200 or 300 people where we need to make sudden decisions, and all of us have opinions, it's a democratic way of how everyone to be heard and how to make any solutions together. So just to end with a couple of examples from our work. Last year in April, probably heard about International Rebellion. We put big pink boat in the middle of Oxford Circus Desert, tell the truth. I chose this because I think it's a perfect example of vulnerability. It's hundreds of women feeding their babies in the middle of the road. There's lots of examples, another vote. This is an example of how communities come together. So you might be thinking, oh, this is protest work, it has nothing to do with business, but it does. You know, essentially, we need to collaborate. And this is, I think, a perfect example of collaboration. You know, scientists coming together from all over the world, with doctors, people from different religions, formed a group called Faith Bridge, farmers coming together. This is the example of puppetry, how you can use puppetry to communicate your message. A theatre group, silent clowns, again, how sometimes just with your presence you can communicate the message. Murals. There was a couple who had a boat, and they built this art installation and floated into River Thames, and got lots of press attention. Music, animals, Banksy saying from this moment despair ends and tactics begin, some guerrilla, you can call it, in your case, maybe it would be a guerrilla marketing. And just the very final note, collaborate with us. Like, the artists are out there. We are out of work now in this Corona crisis. We care, and I mean, it's quite brave to talk on behalf of everyone, but yeah, we are out there. Reach out if you feel stuck. So yeah, thank you very much. Just a couple of examples of where to find your inspiration. A couple of books that I personally liked. On some of them are on leadership and collaboration, and some of them are on creativity. So let's create. Let's be radical with our imagination. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Daiva, for so many great ideas how to approach this topic, and you know, it was really pleasure to have you here. So thank you, and I'm super excited to invite another speaker, Jurgis Didziulis. He has many talents. You probably saw him singing and doing active performances. And this time, I
can't hear you outwardly for some reason.
Sorry?
Am I the only one?
Can you hear me? Hello.
Are you talking to me? Who?
Okay,
Yes.
Maybe it's just my, sorry.
Okay, so then, you know, just presenting Jurgis Didziulis with a very interesting topic, but not the way you planned. That's the name of the topic. And welcome you, Jurgis, and the floor is yours.
Lovely. All right, good. Beautiful. I hope you're all doing well today. I can only tell you that in Vilnius, it's awfully hot. It's very warm here where I am. So let me start with a little story. When I was young, I wanted to be a rock star. Yeah, and the funny thing was that I can remember myself more or less at the age of 7 or 8, watching MTV and watching these idols of mine doing things that I thought really challenged the status quo, really kind of like proposed a reality that was very different from what I was living. Later on in life, I started listening to Bob Marley, John Lennon, individuals that I actually understood could make a difference within their industry. And so at some point, without even noticing it, I said, I want to be a rock star when I grow up. And funnily enough, I didn't place that much attention on music. I put a lot more attention on the social aspect. So I began to study economics, and then I did political science. And then at some point, quite haphazardly, I became famous in Lithuania, which for me is a little bit of a joke. I say being famous in Lithuania is like being famous in Brooklyn or in some very small neighborhood of a very big city. But the truth of the matter was that I was very unhappy with what this entailed and implied, because I thought that being a rock star meant that you could challenge the status quo, that you could do rock and roll and inspire other people to be more rock and roll. But I quickly discovered that there was an industry, and an industry that had standards, and those standards had to be met by me making music that would apply to those standards. And so I found myself having to step away from the industry because I found that I couldn't do what I wanted to do with it. And here's the curious thing. I don't know how many people there amongst you are activists, are people who want to work with water because they feel it right here, are people who want to work with water because they truly care about the communities. There are people who work with water because they really, really, really want to see a more positive future. But much like me, maybe you've encountered the industry and gone, shit, this isn't going to be that easy. The curious thing was that what helped me the most, to return to some kind of semblance of using music for social transformation was studying business administration. And so I did an MBA. And for me, the most curious thing was that my brain opened, and that thing which I was fighting against in my industry, all of a sudden became my most powerful weapon, because I understood how money worked. And as a person who studied political science previously, it became very clear to me that if you want to work in this economic model, if you want to be effective, if you want to be impactful, you really need to understand how it works. And so the curious thing is that for me, it was almost like surrendering to the thing I didn't want to surrender to, allowing myself to immerse myself in that which I thought was the devil's work. And I know that there's a lot of activists that feel that way. I know that there's a lot of artists that feel that way. There's a lot of artists that have trouble selling themselves. But here's the thing, especially now during this interesting period of the COVID, the COVID lockdown, we see that people are discovering new and fantastic ways of collaborating, which challenge the status quo. And one of those is actually this thing we're doing right now, the hackathon. That's right. So if you think, at least for me, I don't know, you may disagree, but one of the coolest things that's happening with hackathon culture at the moment is that we have people who understand that there has to be a little bit more collaboration rather than competition when we talk about startups and business. That's right. Because a lot of people have been talking about social entrepreneurship for a while. And the main problem with social entrepreneurship is that you can say, well, is social something we're using as a commodity, like say Facebook, or is social something we're willing to address? And that requires two very different types of mindset. It requires either a business person with a very big heart, or if you're doing the latter, which is just commodifying social interactions for money, then you need a shrewd mind. But here's the thing, I think that we do best when we have both. And again, as I mentioned, in hackathon culture, we've been realizing that people say is like, we need to collaborate as well. And some of the beautiful things that we've created in the past couple of months have been because people take off their competitive hats and say, how can we work together for something better? And so we find ourselves challenging those notions of how we're supposed to achieve something. Whether activists are supposed to do it as activists or business people are supposed to be doing it as business people, you need to take off your hats. And so the reason I have this guitar here and I've been strumming it this whole time is just to make one clear point. My initial dream was to be a rock star. That was the dream. But if I disambiguate the dream was to touch people with music, was to use my music for something purposeful. And so what I do now for a living is I use music as a tool to do something purposeful. For example, to give this talk to you, completely outside the structures of what we believe is normal. And if you start disambiguating a little bit, really taking apart what you want to achieve, really taking apart what drives you, and you look at it from another angle, and you even allow yourself to take off your mask, take off those hats, maybe even take off your clothes and lay yourself bare and say, this is me doing what I need to do. What do I need to change for people to see me the right way? What do I need to do for me to be able to really follow what I need with conviction? I think what we need there is a lot more creativity, and more importantly, a lot more trust. And if we manage that, if we manage to actually explore the things we're afraid of, if we manage to get into business, learn the best practice, if we learn as business people to get a little bit more hippie, I think that's where we're going to see the most interesting innovation, somewhere where competition meets collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, Jurgis. It was so refreshing and very deep thought. So, thank you for joining us, and I hope that everyone enjoyed as I did. And let me jump to the third speaker then. It's Pär Larshans, Director of Sustainability and Ragn-Sells Group, expert appointed by the Ministry of Environment to set environmental targets for the sea and coastal areas in Sweden, and also appointed expert by the Minister of Industry with us to secure a fossil-free business by 2045. So, the floor is yours, and I'm super excited to have you here as well.
Thank you. It's really nice to be in Estonia at this stage. And I agree with the last speaker that a very positive thing when it comes to the COVID-19 situation is the challenge that, or the possibility we have to meet even more now, because now we have started to understand, to use really the technique that make us meet. I also agree. I would like to see the other other people that are watching this, but I understand it's not possible because of the transmission. So what I will do, I will start with a story. And the story will be about a personal thing that happened to me when I was a little child. I was raised up in the northern part of Sweden, and at the age of 5 to 7, every summer I spent at my grandfather's island outside in the archipelago of Luleå, northern part of Sweden. I remember one very special moment, and that was in the autumn at the age of 7, when we were going from the archipelago into the city. And the boat was filled with everything that we were supposed to take back into the city. That was, of course, everything, that clothes and things that we were bringing back and that we should then clean up at the house, but also the garbage. The thing was, what I remember was when we came to the harbor, the garbage was already gone. Because then the story was that, or the understanding was that, everything that you put into the ocean will disappear. Well, it disappears from your eyes, but it really ends up in the oceans, in the water, and long term, of course, creates a problem. We see it now when it comes to the plastic in the oceans that creates really big problems. But what we know now is it's not just what we see, the waste that we see that we put in the oceans that creates a problem. Also, all the microorganisms, or the heavy metals, or the toxin that we pour in the water accumulates and becomes a problem. And that is more or less what I'm now focusing on in my business today. I represent Ragn-Sells. We are a family-owned business, originates from 1881. When we first started, and we started as a transport company, using horse and carriages, transporting goods and people with horses. And at the early stage, we also started to take out latrines from the city of Stockholm to the suburbs of Stockholm, meaning that where the food was then produced. So at the very early stage, we were bringing back nutrients back to the farmland again. Today, we are still a waste management company, but we understood that the transformation that we are undergoing from a linear economy where there is waste to a circular economy will need a new way of doing business. So we are really in a transformation phase, because if there's no waste, there's no need for a waste management company. We have the operation in Estonia, we have operation in Denmark, we have operation in Norway, and of course in Sweden. And now we also open up an office in Berlin for expansion in Germany. And our expansion in Germany will be based on chemical engineering. It means that we will, by using green chemistry, circulate back nutrients, in this case, phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen. And I will cover all through those three as an example, how we are reinventing ourselves, and be able to continue to be a family-owned company for generations to come. So first, start with the background. What have we done in our business development? What have we used in our business development to create this change? And what kind of understanding has we had? On the left-hand side here, on the picture, you have the 9 planetary boundaries presented by Stockholm University in 2009. It's nowadays part also in Kate Raworth's donut model. And these are the environmental challenges that the world are facing. We have specially highlighted here the phosphorus and the nitrogen cycle, because that's the problem that also creates a huge problem for the water issue, for the oceans, and for both eutrophication, but also creates a health problem. And we use those problems to create business. It means that we are inventing things that will solve those problems, and in the end, of course, create a business possibility for us as a company. Especially the nitrogen cycle is very, very challenging. We know that the World Bank last year published a report where they confirmed that the amount of nitrogen in the water, especially in the developing countries, will lead to that the economic growth in those developing countries will decrease by 30%, and also cause stunting and really an unhealthy situation. In the Netherlands, as an example, they have stopped construction work for more than 15 billion euros annually, based on that they are overshooting on the nitrate levels. So nitrogen in the water is really a big challenge also in our part of the world. On the right-hand side, we have the total carbon emissions by 2010. And this picture, I picked this one because what everybody's talking about today on the global level in UN or between negotiations between states is the left-hand side of this circle. And these are the carbon emissions emitted from the energy from buildings, energy for transportation, and energy systems. That's what people are talking about. That is what people believe are the carbon emissions. But to be honest, we are producing things in a linear way. We're using a lot of carbon emissions to produce products, infrastructure. So we have embedded a lot of carbon emissions in our daily way of living. So how can we then use that? Well, if we're going to succeed to reach the Paris Agreement, we need to include both the left-hand side and the right-hand side of this circle. So we need to create circular economy. As much as 24% of carbon emissions, on total carbon emissions in the world, are also from the agriculture sector and from the land use, forestry. And of those 24%, all up to 3% in total of the carbon emissions in the world comes from how we are producing and using fertilizers. And this is something that we have targets, especially in our innovations, in our process of developing the new ways of working. Another thing that we also have targeted that is also very important for being able to reduce the carbon emissions in the world. It's securing the resources that we know that we need in a fossil-free, electrified world that has replaced the carbon emissions. And the thing is, these are our 27 elements that the European Union has highlighted as critical to secure that either European Union has too little of it, or they are so important in this transformation phase. So we need to really be very careful by this, or to care for those. One example is the phosphorus, and in 2014 it became on the CRM list in Europe. And as a result of that, Germany said that we have a lot of phosphorus in our sludge. Well, if this is an important resource, we need to make sure that we don't waste it. So therefore, they put a legislation that they demand now from 2032 that all cities, they need to extract the phosphorus out of the sludge before they get rid of it, before they do something else with it. And that's an example also how legislation, that you need really to understand about legislation and how to use legislation as a driving force also to business development. Because if legislation puts a demand on something, then if you can produce the thing that fulfills the demand, then you will have a business. And when we develop our solutions, we say that we're gonna work with those three principles on the picture in front of you every time. It means that the first principle is that we need to make sure that we de facto reduce the need of virgin production somewhere else. We need to make sure that we take away as much as unwanted substance as possible, take away toxin, and then thirdly, make sure that we don't create new problems, that we don't push problems or hindrances to future generations. Climate issue, but also other environmental challenges. If we can say yes to all those three, then we will do an investment. Then we will put money into research, but not before that. And that's very, very critical going forward. And this is principles that we use internally when we develop new solutions. Let's jump into one of the solutions directly, and this is the nitrogen solution. It means that we have produced a solution where we can take nitrogen directly out of the water and directly produce fertilizer. Why is this a problem? Well, the problem is that when you're producing fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer today, you use the Haber-Bosch method. It means that you're incinerating natural gas and produce a lot of carbon emissions directly when you produce it. There's a lot of nitrogen in the atmosphere, so that's not a scarce resource, but it's really it's a challenge when it comes in the water, and it's a high cost because it's to take it out of the water. It's fairly cheap to produce it with the natural gas. That's why I believe nobody has really tried to come up with another idea, because it has cost too much. So what do you do with the fertilizer? Well, the nitrogen fertilizer are like the turbo for producing food. It means that the food grows much bigger, much more. But then it ends up in the water and in the wastewater, and now legislation has said that, well, we need to take away more and more of the nitrogen, and then suddenly we have a high cost for the wastewater plants. What we have done, we have developed a method where we can, and by the way, today's methods of taking away the nitrogen from the water is through biological treatment. It means that we are using algae that are put into big dams, where they then are taking out the nitrogen from the wastewater plants. And as an effect of that, they are producing a lot of laughing gas, and it's a really high cost for the wastewater plants. We have developed a chemical method, a circular chemical method. It means that we are taking the nitrogen directly from the water without those big dams, and we can take as much as 95% of the nitrogen directly from the water and directly produce fertilizer. So we are skipping 2 steps that are creating a lot of carbon emissions. And at the same time, this is to a much lower cost than today's way of reducing the amount of nitrogen in the water. So this is really very positive for the climate, and it's really very positive, and will be very positive also for the wastewater plants economically. So in 2022, we will be able to take it to the market. So it's the last phase when we are now setting up 2 pilot plants. And after that, we will know exactly how to design the final part, the final step. This is just one of the fertilizers that you need. And these are examples of micronutrients that you need to have when you are producing fertilizers. We have the phosphorus, we have the potassium, and then we have the nitrogen. Just briefly cover the other 2, and that's the potassium and phosphorus. These are macronutrients that you can't replace. You really need those micronutrients when you are producing food. Otherwise, we would really reduce the amount of production of food in the world. And those are finite. It means that they're not enough for those resources in the world. And another challenge is that many of the resources, especially the phosphorus, are mined outside of the European Union. Just 10% of the European Union's own production is in Europe, and that's a mine in the northern part of Finland. Today, we start with the potassium, and the potassium we are producing from when we are using our waste, the waste that we shouldn't put in the water, that we should try to recycle as much as possible. But the thing that are not clean enough, the thing that we can't really put in the recycling process, we need to then incinerate. And that has until now become an end station, meaning that you need to put it in a landfill. What we have developed is a solution where we can recycle back the resources, all the resources, after incineration. So it means that we are bringing back 20% salts. It's potassium, it's calcium chloride, and natrium chloride or sodium chloride, and also the ammonia. So we are putting back 20% directly and be able to sell it as in industrial processes. What's very good is that the leftovers has the same chemical substance as Portland cement. So it means that we are able then to reduce the amount of carbon emissions from concrete production. And so this is really promising. And the first plant are ready to be built. We have started to construct it, and it will be investment for the first plant will cost us 60 million euros to set up. The good thing out of the carbon emissions perspective is that the plant and the process in itself is a carbon sink. So it means that when we put out the plant, we will be able to reduce the carbon emissions by replacing today's virgin production, and also reduce the amount of concrete needed or cement needed in the concrete production. The first one factory will be built up in the northern part of Sweden and in Stockholm, and we are already now planning for the second plant. So it means that today's one way of producing or the incineration of waste that we are today is a linear process. We now go from being linear to become circular. And as soon as we introduced this new way of working and this new patent and this new investment, we have had interest both from Ireland, from UK, from Germany, and also from Moscow, as well as from Singapore. So the international interest to create circular loops are far away from the Nordic countries where we operate in. Thirdly, the phosphorus then. I'll talk about the challenge with today's way of producing phosphorus fertilizer. Well, 90% of the production are coming from outside of Europe. And 80% of the reserves in the world are in one place, and that's in Morocco and West Sahara. And the challenge is here also that the resources that we are mining in the world are also consist high content of cadmium and uranium. It's a similar methods that we have developed. It means that we need to incinerate the sludge, and because we can mine from urban mining, we can mine it from the sludge that we are producing as humans. But after incineration, we separate all the good stuff, and it's less than 1% that need to go to the landfill. But the very, very positive thing is that we are producing the highest quality product in the world, because we are separating taking all the heavy metals are separated. But we also bring back both the precipitation chemicals that are used in the wastewater plants, as well as we can also produce a substance that also can be used to replace cement. So it's just a little small amount, less than 1% of the heavy metals that need to be separated, and that's mainly the cadmium that we are separating. But these are 3 examples now that I highlight of innovations that we have developed based on there is a challenge in the society, that we need to have a change, and we then have put in money into research and come up with these ideas. All of those 3 are world leading, and our target are really the big population centers in the world after we had our first production units up and running. I will just give you a very, very short brief about an example in Estonia. Ragn-Sells, we are also in Estonia, as you know, with our traditional way of waste management, but we are now setting up a new research facility where we are trying to, with carbon capture utilization, produce PCC. And and the other stuff that we are using are the oil shale ashes, the huge amount of oil shale ashes that has been stored after production of energy in Estonia. What's good with the PCC is that we are using carbon dioxide as one of the ingredients to produce it. So it's a carbon capture utilization process. And suddenly we produce from the stored ashes, we can now produce needed resources that you don't need to mine, because today's way of producing it is mining from under the ground. So this is also one example, just very briefly, and this is really not world news, but it's really very, very positive news for Estonia, if we can then go all the way to set up the first plant. And hopefully in 2025, if everything goes according to plan, we will have the first industry up and running, and it will produce then 1 million tons of PCC. And of course, use a lot of carbon dioxide to produce it. So we don't need to put it up into the air anymore. We have a saying that we see a beginning where others see an end, or we see a possibility where others see a challenge. And I hope that you as inventors also see possibilities. As soon as you see a problem, then you should say, aha, we have something that we can then support you with. If you have any more questions, please don't be shy. You can come with questions to me afterwards. Either send me an email or send me a message through LinkedIn, and we can connect. And then, of course, I will try to share as much as possible for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. It was really inspiring, and thank you for sharing such a good information. And thank you all thank you all the speakers. Actually, it was really inspiring, and I hope that all the presentations give you energy boost and confidence to move forward with your ideas you're working on. And now we will have we will go for very short team check-ins, but before, let me quickly go through the process of the hackathon and the mentors who will join today. So starting with what we had till today, yeah. So we started with Intro Day on 18th of June, and also get some inspiration. Teams met each other, and we started our journey. Then it was 11 days of a very nice process, and I will briefly introduce that as well. And then today, so today we want to pack the solutions, get more mentors, and in the end of the day, present your solutions. And I hope it's just the beginning of your journey, not the end one. Talking about innovation process, we had lots of interesting material there. We talked about problem, about customer, ideation, MVP, impact measurement, communication, and pitch. And even, not all the teams actually made all this kind of journey. So totally today we will have 7 teams who will present it. So, it just kind of, in every startup probably, that's life. And sometimes, it's even easier to fail fast. So, but all the teams who participated from very beginning, just big thanks. I just wanted to say big thank you. And really it was quite a good journey together. And today, talking about the last presentation. So the teams will cover a few things. So we'll cover problem, solution, business model, size of opportunity, competitive landscape, traction, team, and the ask. So actually, it will be very similar to what startups are pitching. But overall, we feel that it's also needed to kind of present the solutions. So let me introduce the mentors one by one. So first of all, pitching mentors who will join very shortly. Leonardo, Sandra, and Alex. I'm super happy to have them. And for all of the teams, they will help you with the pitchings, the presentations. So you can ask them how to make an outstanding pitch, how to build a video, what elements should be added to the pitch, and how to prepare for Q&A sessions. And this is the table with the pitch mentors, and all of you have this information for the teams in our Slack or email. We send it to you, so you all have it. We will arrange everything, so don't worry. We will automate it via same Zoom. So we don't need to go to other channels and book something. So everything will be done there. And afterwards, it will be business model and financing mentors. So we'll have Marit from KPMG. We'll have Oshra who can help with also European Union kind of all the kind of financial instruments as well. we'll have Roberta, we'll have Ekaterina, Sharune, and Simona. And, you know, you can ask anything you want from these mentors, but most of that, what we expect actually help you to scale your solutions, to find good, better, maybe best ways to monetize it, some partnerships possibilities as well, and how to find the funding as well. And again, everything is set up for you, so you know, don't need to worry. We will direct mentors, you know, automatically. And last but not the least, legal mentors. So I will not even read these names, but you know, it's Cobalt joining us. We also send their presentation to you, all the teams, so have a look at them, and you know, it will be many various legal questions, not only these ones. It can also be some kind of related to startups. So whatever you have, you can ask them as well. And again, you will have a table with them as well. And yeah, one more maybe thing to generalize everything. So all the teams have the slots already for mentoring. If you feel that you don't need some particular mentor, let us know. But I hope that you can use it. I mean, it's a great possibility to have all the mentors together here. If you'd like to add extra mentor, which you saw maybe from you know, descriptions, and you really like to meet them, let us know. We will try to arrange it as well. And yeah, and mentors will join automatically at a scheduled time. So right now, it will be the time for all the teams to have one more time kind of to present in one sentence, actually one to two sentences. We'll have up to 2 minutes for each team to say their progress actually. So what we need to do, we need to say the idea in one sentence, top 3 things we achieved so far, and what expectations are from today. So it's a quick check-in for the teams, and for everyone else, you know, not from the teams, they will understand briefly what are the solutions about, but all the kind of real pitches will be happening at the afternoon. So let me welcome the first team, Equadrena. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Arvidas. So shortly, Equadrena regulated drainage is a unique system helping both nature by slowing down the eutrophication processes in the surface waters, and farmers by helping them get richer yields by regulating humidity in the field, in the soil. 3 most important things which we already achieved is first of all that we kind of opened doors with Latvia and Estonia environmental and agriculture ministries. That is very helpful when expanding to Latvia and Estonia. Second thing, we have been invited by Lithuanian Environment Ministry to share our know-how on ongoing preparation for funding regulated drainage in Lithuania. That's a big achievement for us. We've been striving this for a year now. So with the help of Hackathon, it went very easy. And the third one just came in listening to the speakers that actually we should be brave enough to have this project we've been dreaming about is to take one river, which is very polluted in Lithuania, and put our equipment in all that river and regulate all the water in that river and try to stop the eutrophication processes. To have the story, not only the numbers by scientists. And the goal for today is share our message with as many people as possible. And that message is, let's drain as much as needed, not a single drop more.
Thank you, Jonas. It was just in time, 2 minutes. So we probably rehearsed a lot to make it. Yeah.
Since last time when I was too much. Then.
Okay, thank you, Jonas. So now the floor is for fungi. Sorry.
Yes. Hello, I'm here. I will just start my video. So hello, everyone.
So our team, fungi, are developing and optimizing biological treatment by filamentous fungi for treating the wastewater from pharmaceutical substances. That is our idea. During this hackathon, we have a mentoring with a member from NEFCO. We have specified our idea a bit like an arrow, not so wide, and we have defined the scope of the project. And we have consulted also with member from Vilnius wastewater treatment plant and introduced with our idea. And we take their suggestion to look to our idea from legislation perspective. And the main objective of today's hackathon from our fungi team is to finalize the pitch video and observe new ideas and possible cooperation with other teams. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fast and yeah, and good. So the third team is Litmus team. So Litmus, the floor is yours.
Hi. I will speak on behalf of Litmus team. So our idea, very briefly talking, is to engage citizens in improving water monitoring and engaging in water monitoring, water quality monitoring, and raise awareness. Three main things that we've achieved is, firstly, we validated the idea and discussed with many mentors about the problem and importance, and we met few mentors and few other teams and discussed about it and really realized that this is a big problem, and people think about it and talk about it, and there is a need to solve it. Another thing is that we established contacts with all these teams and all these stakeholders and learned from their inputs a lot. So I think that was a very important experience for us. And also the third thing is that we, with all these discussions, we managed to clarify our model of because at first it was briefly an idea, now we have a good understanding of how it should work and what are important things to think about and discuss and pay attention. And the main objective for today is keep learning, learn from all the experiences, all the consultations and inputs, and shape our message to the final pitch, test it out with the audience and get the message out. So.
Thank you, Elvira. And now the floor is for Azure Blue.
Yes, so I think we have something similar, but what we're doing is we're creating an app or a platform. Oh, one sec.
Now we can see you as well, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're creating an app or a platform that will help to get a clear message to the public about water quality. So there's already platforms that analyze data, but we want to make it easy and understandable for people that don't have this scientific background. So I guess our achievement is also, we met one day before the hackathon with my team members. So our achievement, I guess, was getting the idea together and putting together everything that we needed to make this possible, and also making sure that we're both on the same track and have the same end goal. And then, yes, just putting in all the work and meeting other teams, meeting mentors, seeing like what the actual issue is and if it's really a possibility and really necessary. And yeah, I think that's pretty much good for our achievements. And then the main objective for today is to finalize our pitch and to see what other teams are presenting and how else we can make what we want to do better for everyone and more useful and necessary. So we're looking forward to today.
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. It's really nice, and it was really interesting to see your team development through this process as well. So now I see again that one team wants to be now to speak, so it's Pure Ocean. So the floor is yours, Pure Ocean.
Hello. Hi, thank you very much. Pure oceans. So we have a technology that cleans up bottom of any water body on a depth of 20 meters from oil, microplastic, and chemicals within a certain density. During these days, we had a number of meetings, and we are very happy because we have identified 2 cases where our technology is in need and where we can actually start working in the nearest future. One is in Lithuania, the river that's been polluted by shredded plastic, and we have a solution for that. We are very grateful for having the opportunity to speak with the Minister of Environment in Lithuania and identifying this issue, and we will be going ahead understanding how we're going to tackle it. Second option that arises as well, this is the oil spill off from the businesses in Estonia that located near to the rivers, and it's been identified by the Ministry of Environment in Estonia that there's a huge problem because there's so much leakage and pollution happens into the rivers that's situated nearby. And my apologies. And for a long time, they've been looking for an opportunity to clean up. So it's a great opportunity for us to have this connection and having identified that we can actually help with it. So we will be working on developing these 2 directions, and very grateful for this opportunity that Hackathon gave us this week.
Thank you, actually, yeah, for such kind words. And yeah, now it's time to change. Not for us, but yeah, we're inviting this team on the floor. So time to change.
Exactly.
Okay, so time to change team.
Yes. Just a second. Hello. Okay. Hello, everyone. So yes, it's time to change for all of us. Don't exclude yourself from everyone. So what once was a declaration, as you said, time to change. Now during this hackathon, become a framework for a solution, and we have developed more a setup for a change. And this would house a framework for the various beneficiaries to apply such a decision-making technology, tree-based technology for event organizers, managing authorities, and technology makers to make more eco-friendly events and somehow mitigate the impact which large events are causing for the marine ecosystems. 3 main things which we developed so far. So first of all, as researchers, we have come up with several research topics to be applied even during this summer. We had a perfect opportunity for closer collaboration with national authorities, and we made ourselves heard, and this would count as a starting point for environmental educations, not only on the lowest level for the school children, but also for those ones who are making a decision and making technologies happen. And what is our main objective for today? Well, we are thinking that we will try to fill in all the gaps which were left unfilled during the last week, and make our presentation as clean and as fluid as possible.
Thank you again, just in time. So yeah, it's nice to hear you. So now the last but not least, Biovala team. So the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Arvidas, for the host. And yeah, starting with our idea, our solution is artificial floating fighter islands for the city rivers, helping out to decrease the levels of nitrogen and phosphorus in our waters. And the three things we figure out is that we figure out who could be our clients and the beneficiaries. We found out that the city municipalities are interested and are welcomed us with this kind of technology. And we perfectly fits into the European Union green infrastructure development brackets. That's kind of very good news. And also we have a plan how to attract the public into this kind of solution. And of course, the main target for today is to get NEFCO grant and get fully support by developing our testing prototype. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Very nice wish. Yeah. So I hope that every team will succeed. So that was all about the teams. Yeah, and thank you all the teams. Looking forward to hear final pitches, and now the teams will be directed to separate rooms to work further and have mentoring sessions, and you don't need to do anything. Leave all the magic for us. We will do it. And mentors will join us in the calendars, and you have it as well. So for everyone else, including Facebook listeners and other people who joined via Zoom here, thank you for joining our morning session. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you was inspired by the teams and looking forward to join us. See you at 16:45, so 15 to 5 at the same time, Baltic time, and all the pitches will start once. So thank you everyone, and good luck today.